Hey guys, Craig Gentry here, and in today's video we're going to be picking back up on the Not a Van Life Van build series. And today we got to figure out how to build a sliding mountain bike rack for the garage area of the van, and also I got to lay down some vinyl flooring. So that's what we're going to get into. So be sure to stay tuned. So I'm going to be starting off with a scrap piece of 1/2-inch plywood that I had left over from the subfloor. This is about 27-28 inches, so I'm going to rip it down to 60 inches to get my length, and then from there I'm going to cut some strips to do my little bumper walls for it. So that's where we're going to start. Okay, the bike tray is boxed up. I need to sand it and paint it and everything before I can install it in the van. But before I do that, I need to make sure that our two mountain bikes will fit on there and how to mount the fork mount. So I got to do some testing on that first. I thought I had all this figured out, but then I eventually moved Aspen's bike into the front position, and that created a lot of extra clearance for my handlebars. All right, we made great progress today. We got the box assembled. We got 2 coats of primer on. I'm gonna let that dry out overnight. In the meantime, I went ahead and mounted up my brackets onto the slider rails. So tomorrow, I gotta finish up the box, and while that is drying, I'm going to figure out my height at which I need to mount the rails to the side rails on the box. So stay with me, and I'll see you tomorrow. So we're going to pick back up on the slide out bike tray. I've got it all taped up. I got paper down here on my table so I don't spray that. So I'm ready to lay down some top coat. What I'm going to use is this Duplicolor truck bed liner. I've used this on a couple of bumpers. This stuff is really tough. It lasts a long time. It's surprisingly good, and it's pretty easy to do. So that's what we're going to do. Now, if you've never used this spray and bed liner before, the main tip I can give you is to spray on a bunch of really light coats. It'll come out like a speckle, so you'll see a lot of white space as you're going through in between all the dots, but eventually once you put down enough coats, all those dots will connect and it'll be like a solid tray of this bed liner. Okay, so while this dries in between coats, I need to start working on the subfloor and getting that prepared for vinyl flooring. I've got some insulation that I need to fill in with some of that 3 times expanding foam, and also need to fill in some cracks and screw holes with some caulking. I just finished up with the slide out bike tray. I got it tested out. The test, it rolled real smooth. It locked into position like it should. I haven't bolted it down to the floor yet because I need to get my vinyl flooring put in first, but my seat swivel, that showed up today. So I'm gonna do that real quick because I can't get to the vinyl flooring until this weekend. So I've got a little bit of time before dinner, so I'm gonna see if I can throw that in like 30 minutes. We'll see. All right, very productive day yesterday. Finished up the mountain bike slider. It's not mounted in here on the floor yet. I've got to lay down the vinyl before I do that, before I do a permanent installation, but I've tested it out. It runs really smooth. It works just exactly as I had expected and hoped it to. So that is good to go. It's ready to bolt. I got to pull it out of here. You can also see back there I've got the seat swiveled around. That was pretty easy to do. Definitely could have done it in 30 minutes if the instructions were correct, and they weren't. So they told me to reuse the 6 bolts that you pull out of the seat base whenever you put it back in, but that's just not accurate. You got to use the flat bolts that they send, because as you swivel it around, it hits those thicker bolt heads. So yeah, just use the hardware that's provided. That's the Scopema seat swivel. I got that from Eurocampers.com. That seemed to be the best price whenever I was shopping. Don't know if it'll still be that whenever this goes live, but they didn't have it in stock. I had it on the waiting list. It took a few weeks, and then yeah, showed up the next day. So that's done. It's installed. It's good to go. Ready to mess with the flooring today. So I've got to unpack that, unroll it. I'm going to let it sit out here in the ambient temperature all day long and let it acclimate. Then I'll spread it out, cut it, and stick it down. I decided to go with rolled vinyl instead of vinyl planks because vans go through temperature swings that vary a lot wider range than a home. Rolled vinyl doesn't get the planks separating and getting gaps in between them whenever it expands and contracts. I've got the vinyl flooring unrolled. I'm going to do the cutting in 2 or 3 stages. So I'm first, this is a 12 by 8 piece of flooring, which is about 2 feet bigger on each side than it needs to be. So I'm going to first just do kind of a broad trim and kind of trim it down to size, and I can place it where I want it and do final cutting after that. This is slow and tedious, and I'm certainly not getting it perfect, but I've been finding it easier to just kind of trim off little pieces at a time instead of trying to just do big cuts. I'm afraid that some of my bigger cuts from the initial cut that looked super safe, I'm afraid that they might be a little bit too short, so I might have to do some seams and stuff like that later on. But this front edge here, that's probably one of the more difficult cuts. That's done, so I'm going to be moving on to the rest. All right, the floor trimming is done. It needs to be glued down. I'm going to do that tomorrow. We got to get out of here and get to dinner. I'm working on this van like an hour or 2 after work every day, so I don't get big chunks of time to work on big projects like this. I wish I did. The weekend's coming up. Hopefully I can get a lot done then, but in the meantime, I'm going to let it chill out like this overnight, and then tomorrow I'll work on gluing it down. And when I say glue, I mean tape. This stuff is a really sticky 2-sided tape that's specifically made for vinyl flooring. Hey, not bad for my very first floor install. I did leave a little bit of excess material over here by this window because I'm going to put the kitchen there and that'll kind of smooth that out anyway, so I'm not too worried about that. Did that on purpose. So now it's time to move on and start trimming this out and putting the finishing touches on it. For the bottom of the sliding door, I got this, it's called Stair Edge Nose Guard. I'll put a link in the description for all of these products if you want to check those out. But this is what I'm using. This is rubber. I'm actually going to put it on upside down so that way it covers up the subfloor and the insulation, and it just has a little bit of trim on top that goes into the van. Stair nose edge guard worked out way better than expected. This stuff looks fantastic. Looks very official, very professional. I love it. Yeah, that's a great choice. Definitely recommend that. Okay, so in this video, we scored a huge victory. We got the swivel seat done. We installed and finished up the flooring, and we also finished up and hard mounted the slide out bike tray. I'm super stoked with how all of this come out. It's better than I had envisioned. I didn't think that my skill level was as high as I was able to accomplish here. I'm really happy with that. In the next build series video, we're gonna try to finish up all of the electric and the solar, but we're gonna take a break from the build and we're gonna go on our first little van trip, I guess. We got our anniversary coming up next weekend, so we're gonna get out of town. We're gonna take this thing mountain biking and see how it does. We're just throwing air mattress on the floor for now or whatever. So yeah, make sure you subscribe, and I'll see you next time.